I would just want it to be something a little bit more visual, you know, like she goes and, I don't know, like steps into the ocean or something for the first time, and that, like, you know, something where she's connecting to something larger.
Yeah.
And that awakens this thing in her. And
yeah,
then,
I think
her caveman family shows up.
Yeah.
My big fat caveman wedding.
My big fat caveman wedding. Hello and welcome to StoryFellas, the podcast where we make stories and we break stories. I'm your host, Tommy Antonucci.
And I'm your host, Zach Lovelace.
And we're here. We're doing it again, folks.
Yeah, I wanted to start the episode. Tommy usually does. And so I wanted to just ask Tommy, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing well. We went on a ski trip recently. Had a little vacation time, got together with some family. I'm not super good at skiing. My wife is, so she loved it. And I had fun too. I did not ski nearly as hard or anything as everyone else. Did you wipe out? Not as bad as I have in the past. I'm starting to learn. Nice. I had a few little spills, but they were like the spills that like you just kind of like slide and land on your shoulder. But it was good. It was good catching up with family. Good to unplug a little bit and back at it. And back
got unplugged from the StoryFellas grid.
We took a little break. It's been a little while. Yeah, all the fans knocking at my door. It was good. But I've heard that you had a little bit of a rougher time.
Oh yeah, dude. No, I've probably told this story about 1,000 times at this point. But I've been getting over being sick. So you were on vacation. I was on another planet. I was straight up like I have not been this sick in over 15 years. And it's called the norovirus. I don't know what it is. I don't know who made it. I don't know what lab it's from. But God have mercy on anyone that has it. Dude, it was so bad. It was worse. Maybe not worse. It was equal to childbirth.
Because you know exactly what that feels like.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. It just, I haven't been that vomity. I mean, that's really what it is. It's just like I was just in my body studying what was happening, and you really get to know your body. And you have this like post puke peace that happens. You're like, oh good, it's not going to happen. And then something very deep inside of you just clicks again, and it's just the timer hits, and it's like one more hour and you are going to be in this place. But no, the one plug I will say, the one product placement I will say is for Starry, the soda. Mm-hmm. Dude, AKA Sierra Mist, brought me back to life. It was the next morning. It was like the first thing I had after just vomiting for 8 hours straight and being awake. And I was sleeping in bed, and Kate comes in and she brings me a can, and she's just like, here you go. And I spilled it all over myself. It was so good though. It was delicious. And I gotta say, if you ever, doomsday preppers, you better have some Starry on hand, dude. This is not a good segue. That was just how my weekend was. But I did get some reading done. And that's actually what inspired this question, which I'm going to ask you is, what inspires you? What stories have been inspiring you, Tommy Antonucci?
What story? Like lately?
Yeah.
What stories have been inspiring me? Oh, man. You should give me some of your examples so I have time to think while I pretend to listen to you.
I can give you one. So, Batman Year One. It's a great comic by Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli. It's pretty much what you think of when you think of Batman in terms of cinematic stuff. Have you ever read this?
No, I've not.
It's unbelievably good. I forgot how good it was. My daughter's been getting into Superman and Batman, and she pulled this off the shelf, and I was like, oh yeah. It's essentially what Nolan used for Batman Begins. So it like legitimized Batman the year before, or maybe 2 years before. Frank Miller wrote The Dark Knight Returns, which is the really gritty Batman in the future. He comes out of retirement, blah, blah, blah. But this one is taking it back to its roots. And it's just like his first year of being Batman, and sets up all the stuff that you understand, like his relationship with Commissioner Gordon and whatnot. But just the art is really beautiful. Look at this, Commissioner Gordon. Look at that.
Ooh.
Isn't that awesome? It just has an Alex Tothian kind of sensibility to it. There's a couple panels in here that are just...
The rest of the podcast is for our listeners. Zach's holding up pages of comic books for me to look at.
This out.
Whoa.
It's, I mean, that's not like that great, but it's just communicating a lot with a little. And that's something that I really enjoy. And yeah, I just got a lot over it. I got a lot out of it over the weekend and really took me back to my roots in terms of like stories that I loved. This was like 2010 that I first read it, I think. And yeah, I was just a big Batman head. So what about you, man?
Mine's like for most recent inspiration, there's a YouTube video from a YouTube channel that I follow. And I've followed this guy. He does some comedy sketches and stuff like that. His name's Like a Fox Studios. I think I might have sent you stuff by him before. But he's always done high caliber stuff. His stuff looks really good. It's not that some guy in an apartment with a microphone, you can see the microphone. It's a bit more cinematic than that. Good lighting, good setup and all of that. But he made a Batman sketch as well. And just like a short 2-minute thing. And I don't know what it is. I see YouTube stuff all the time, but something about this just really inspired me. Because he's one dude. He might have a small team, who knows, but he seems to be the main guy. But he's playing all the characters, basically, and he has all of these backgrounds that are, like, not Marvel level, but for, like, an individual YouTuber, like, I am immersed. Like, I get where we're supposed to be. We're on a rooftop, and it's snowing, and I'll have to send you this, but everything... There's all these little details that, as a filmmaking guy, I understand that he's doing, because I know he's just a guy on a green screen. But it's like from the simple thing, like and when he's on the rooftop, there's like this orange light on one side and a blue light on the other side. And obviously he's on the same green screen filming him. I know that. But as he's turning in space, the lights are continuous. Like he is moving the lights to make it always seem like he's... And it's like little things like that, and there's like this clip when he's on a subway and he's holding this thing, and all of the background is fake, but he's layered like fake characters in sitting, and it just adds so much. And I'm just like, the effort this guy's going through to make this in an era of YouTube that people are just, they just care about the joke and they're not really taking the time for the craft.
Classic mop on the head kind of. Skits or whatever. It's the same guy, but now he's a woman because he's got a mop on his head, and it's like, it's just the TikTokification of skit comedy.
There's another part in the video. I'll just send you this later, but where he's playing
put it
two
in the
characters.
Show notes too.
Yeah, I'll try to find it and check it out in the show notes, like Fox Studios. But there's a part where he's playing two characters in an elevator and talking to each other, which obviously I know that's green screen. He's filming one part, he's filming the other. But it's just this little detail of, if you wanted to be lazy about it, you would make one character only reactionary. So the only one guy is like saying anything of substance, and the other person is just like, oh man, yeah, because then they're just listening to a recording and they only have to react. But then I was like, the one thing about this is they're both reactionary at different points in the conversation. Like half the conversation, one guy's saying things and the other guy's reacting, and then it shifts. And it's just like little details, like no one would, you can take the easy way out, but he's putting so much work, and it just made me, is it inspired? I'm like, I got to get a green screen, man. I got to do stuff like that. So I know it's not a classic comic or a big movie, but hey, shout out to, I think the guy's name, forgive me, I don't think he's going to listen to this, but I think his name's Michael is the main guy. But like Fox Studios.
Like a Fox Studios, dude.
Doing great stuff. Keep it up. So yeah,
that's what's the StoryFellas fuel over here.
Yeah, more content, more green screen.
More content. The reason why I ask the inspiration question is because I want people to hear from us, like what we're consuming or what actually attracts us. I know people could probably reverse engineer it, but it's just an interesting thing to ask each other, like what actually on a weekly or daily basis are we reading or whatever, or what like captures your attention. I think most of my life I'm bored, which is a problem that I'm dealing with. It definitely is in gratitude. But it really does make me thankful when I find something like a can of Starry. You know, the Batman Year One was the Starry as well.
Where it brings you back to life.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, this rocks. This made me want to be Batman.
Yeah, I like that. I think in a world of content, and I wonder if it's just different. What if this just becomes the episode? No story. Yeah. We're just talking about inspiration, the things that are cool. But
maybe
we'll see. Listeners, stay tuned.
Oh, listener, you won't know until 59 minutes in. It was all intro. The whole episode was intro.
It was all intro. Where I came for the story.
Shut up.
But I wonder if it was the same in past like when people had 3 channels, or if it's just you ate it up and you're like, cool, this is cool. Or if people still got moved by something that was like, whoa, that's really cool.
Yeah, I think they still had their niches. I think that's what used to be a nerd, was somebody who just got really into something that was not mainstream. Mm-hmm. Like mainstream stuff was probably sports, just from talking to my parents and grandparents, entertainment or whatnot, like mainstream movies. But until Star Wars, I mean, obviously you had like G.I. Joes and stuff like that, but just my dad's generation was the Star Wars generation. So he played with these toys and just getting sucked into something very specific, that it has its own world to it. Not that baseball and football don't have their own worlds. Yeah, they do, but like lore, like that somebody created. Yeah,
it just made things like Star Wars and stuff like that paved the way to make things more mainstream and acceptable. And today, it's like Marvel comic books is like the most. It's ironic that comic books are the most mainstream thing. They're like so mainstream. Marvel is the most mainstream movie. It's like, of course, you see it's the biggest movie every year.
Yeah, and what's funny about that is it's like it's not even comics anymore. Like comics kind of ceased to be comics. I feel like in the 90s when Marvel went bankrupt and they sold all of their movie rights to try and get back into the red or the black, to get out of the red. And that's how we get like Hulk is owned by Fox, or was it Fox or Sony? I can't remember how it splits up, but
I don't know. They almost have them all back though.
Yeah.
But right when people are starting to lose interest in the Marvel chain.
Right as the fatigue hit it. But anyway, well, Tommy, do you want to tell a story this episode? Do you want to, just drag it on? Do you want to just, this is our Vietnam where we're just like going on and on and on?
No, let's tell a story.
Cool.
Are we using your board today?
We're going to use my board, man.
All right. What do I need to roll?
You need to roll, let's see, 1 out of 16. So 16-sided die.
Whoa, 1 out of 16. One die is 16-sided.
It better not be a 2. I feel like we've rolled the 2 too many times for it to be.
All right, well, I am rolling right now, and it is an 8.
An 8, nice, cool. Interesting.
All right. Is that a good interesting?
It is a good interesting. You were rolling just on my genre board.
Okay.
And so you rolled horror.
Okay.
Which is, last one we did was The Shore. And the only one we've done. Not that other ideas we've had haven't kind of flirted with it.
I might make a horror comedy.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, that's like, and that's what I like about horror is that it does blend really well with other things. Horror comedy, horror
romance
comedy. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's like Shaun of the Dead. Anyway, so that's what you got. If you want to roll again,
I do. I need more.
All right, cool. You can roll 1 out of 30.
Whoa, 1 out of 30, and I am rolling, and it is a 23.
Ooh, the number 23, starring Jim Carrey. Oh, dude. Okay, this is actually interesting. A woman does a DNA test but finds out she's 15% Neanderthal.
Oh, man. Dude, that kind of fits.
I know.
It can fit in the horror.
It could,
a little bit.
So, and we're not slaves to the prompt.
We are not. We are definitely not. Because I re-listened to some, and I'm like, we venture far off from the prompt.
We beat up the prompt, dude.
We're like the person, we're the person that is like, I don't care where we eat, but we need someone to suggest so we can say, not there, we're going to go to the taco place down the street.
Yes.
That's what the prompt does for us.
Reject the prompt in many ways. So,
all right, so she takes a DNA test, finds out she's, how much percent?
15%. Which I thought was just because people that actually happens. People actually do on Ancestry and stuff. They do have Neanderthal DNA, whatever that means. I don't personally buy the whole Neanderthal thing very much. I don't really even know much about it, so I can't fully reject it. But I don't buy that they're just like subhuman type.
When you, for some reason, I thought the first time you said it, she was 50% Neanderthal.
Oh no,
She's like clearly like a cave woman. She's like, what?
Yeah. No, but that reminds me of a movie that came out a couple of years ago. What is it called?
That's the Geico ad with the caveman. You're misremembering.
Oh, you're right. Right. They tried to make that a TV show. Let's see. What is it called?
Encino Man?
Weird. It's called, no, not Encino Man. That is on here. Actually, just caveman movies. It's not a very long list. Teenage Caveman, Quest for Fire, the movie Caveman with
Ooga
Ringo
Booga.
Starr. We do like our Ooga Boogas.
Ooga Booga.
That was like our thing a couple years ago. Was
Yeah, we
jokes that are like,
would, as we saw a comic with like cavemen where they were just really dumb and they just said ooga booga, and then that was just like an inside joke within our workplace where we're just like ooga booga, like when we're just feeling dumb and we don't know the answer.
dude, I love it.
I don't know.
And
So forgive me, listeners, if that's offensive to cavemen. I don't think there's any around anymore, but
no, I don't think so. That's actually, kind of my point is that I don't know if there ever were. That's my personal belief. So, if you're a caveman, leave a comment.
we just get a comment that says ooga booga.
Yeah. Unga bunga.
Ooga bunga.
But
Okay.
cavemen are just funny, like as a concept.
Okay.
But a caveman horror film is interesting.
I like a caveman horror film. So
Dude, that sentence alone, I'm jazzed.
It's funny because it makes me think there was a horror film called The Barbarian, but
Was that recent? The recent one?
Yeah, but I don't think it. I've not seen it, but I don't think it actually has a caveman barbarian anything like that.
I think it's just called
titled-
Barbarian too. So I don't
yeah.
know. I don't know. Somebody saw it.
So ours will be The Barbarian.
Yeah. I remember seeing Trog as a kid, which is a 1970 movie where they find a guy living in a cave they bring him back to society, and he's unga bunga ended up and junga bunga just killing people. But yeah, we mixed in some like Nephilim DNA or something. Then
I was gonna say it's like sounds like Nephilim, but so let's say I think the movie could start
I
very.
just thought of a title, but go ahead. We're not even in anywhere near title territory.
We're not. We barely have. You're like, here's the prompt. I know what to call it. It's also funny. Speaking of titles, my wife was talking about how it's ironic because we'll always be like, I've got a title, but I'm going to save it. And she said, from the listener's perspective, they probably they already know what the title is. But I'm like, well, yeah, but our title might not be the one.
We come out with some pretty surprising things, I think.
Yeah. But
I'll go ahead for Kelsey's sake. I know you're listening. Nephilim Jim. That was the title.
Nephilim Jim, like the name.
Yeah, J-I-M. Yeah.
Nephilim Jim. That's Nephil Jim.
Nephil Jim. That just sounds gross.
Nephilim Jim. Cool. Okay, let's flash back. Let's go to the beginning. I think the beginning of, regardless of its horror or whatever, can be look the same. It's let's say it's a lady starting out. Let's call her.
Yeah, you're all about the names, dude. You're the name police.
You're the name police, man. You want to do Harper? I know we talked about Harper, but we didn't use the name Harper. Okay,
Yeah,
Harper. Harper is the girl. I imagine she's, I don't know, 20s, 30s or something like that.
Yeah.
For some reason I picture her being a lawyer, and then her friends are like, you got to do this.
Caveman Lawyer, the SNL skit. That's
Is
one
there
of
an
my
SNL
favorites.
skit with the caveman lawyer?
It's what's his face, Phil Hartman, and he's like, yeah, I don't know, I can't even begin to do the impression, but it's so good. It's so good, dude. You got to look it up. Listeners, look up Caveman Lawyer.
Oh, that might be in the show notes too, if Zach remembers.
We're
to
gonna
send
load
it
the
to
show
me.
notes full of caveman stuff.
Yeah, a bunch of caveman and inspiration and stuff. But yeah, some reason I picture it. She doesn't have to be a lawyer, but I imagine she has friends and she has like these girlfriends. And they're hanging out. And she's like, I just did this 23andMe, whatever, like adjacent thing, and it said it's crazy. I'm part Icelandic or something. I don't know, something weird. And they're like, you got to do it.
Mostly, Icelandic or something. And then I do think that I like the idea that like Ancestry shows up, or whatever the company is shows up to her house, and they're like, we have to give you your results. Like, you have to come in.
Oh, they're like, what? What do you mean? You have to come in.
But she has to have a good reason to do the 23andMe thing. I think we can give her some good backstory, maybe a wound of like not feeling a part of people, like being an orphan maybe.
Yeah, it could be like that. I think it could also just be as like she's going through a breakup or had a breakup recently in the last like month or so, and her friends are just saying like you gotta find out who you are, and that's kind of like a jump leap to, hey, I did this thing, it was fun, we'll do it together.
Yeah, we went to the countries that we were from, and I got to learn all about who I was, and blah 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 blah. That's cool.
Yeah, and then she does that, and it could be. I think there's a couple routes to go with this. There's the we're bringing
Remember,
you
it's
in.
A horror film. It's a horror film.
Well,
so
hear me out. I've got an alternate.
On. I got two sets of headphones on.
He's wearing so many.
For the
headphones.
viewer, they can't see this, but I am hearing. I'm not hearing impaired, but I just really like to hear.
He loves hearing. There's we got to bring you in, and that can take into like kind of a weird, shady thing where maybe they know something about this, and they're like, we didn't think this person exists. Mm-hmm. That's one route we could go. The other route we could go, she just receives the results, and she's like, what does this mean? Like, I'm 15% Neanderthal. Yeah. And it's like, as soon as she discovers that, then like weird stuff starts happening, and like the Neanderthals or whatever are like encroaching, like they are coming for her once she is aware of that fact to like claim her back.
Okay. Do you want that to be like something psychic? Like just once she's aware of her, or do you want it to kind of be nested in this idea? Like once she turned 18, she started having these dreams of, Unga Bunga dreams.
Unga Bunga dreams. She loves the Flintstones.
She's like, the Flintstones over the Jetsons any day of the week, which is true. Definitely. I mean, I'm just personally.
Yeah.
Flintstones over Jetsons.
Well, it's one of those things that if we're wanting to tie it really closely to the results of the test, then it's almost like some magic quality. Like once, because she's becoming aware of who she she's becoming aware of who she is, that's what draws the other people. Like it's like her being aware of her own being.
That feels weak to me.
All right, we can do it. We can change it.
That feels weak to me. We're
can also
for the first time on StoryFellas.
Oh well, this is the last episode, guys. We've always agreed till here.
No, I would just want it to be something a little bit more visual. Like she goes and I don't know, like steps into the ocean or something for the first time, and that like something where she's connecting to something larger. Yeah, and that awakens this thing in her. And then
I think
her caveman family shows up.
Yeah.
My big fat caveman wedding.
My big fat caveman wedding.
My big fat Unga Bunga wedding.
You may now Unga the Bunga.
Yeah. Bunga Unga.
Okay, here. Let's mix this a little bit. Because my problem is I don't want there to be like, oh, she turns 18 and the stuff slowly happens, and then the convenience of she takes a test and then stuff happens.
Agreed.
I think she could take the test. That motivates us. Like you got Neanderthal DNA that's traced back to this place, and it ties back. City. And then the friends were talking about, hey, we went into the places, and she's like, I don't even know what that means. And they're like, just go. Like, you're in between. You've got vacation time. You're broken up. You should go. And maybe one of the friends goes with her or something. And then something about her going there is going to trigger the events. Does that work better?
That works. Yeah, that works.
Nice.
Where they start to, she does something that only the cavemen do, whatever they are, as they are.
Let's make them. Let's add our own StoryFellas spin to these cavemen. They're not just generic cavemen. There's something cool about them.
They're not dumb. Like they're not Unga Bunga.
Oh, they're smart cavemen. Would be.
They're not Unga Bunga. I just got really sad about that.
They're not Unga Bunga. Well, I feel like if we wanted to lean into actually, no. You know what's really unsettling is like a 7 foot tall, strong Neanderthal that's very eloquent, because you never see that. Like it's like there's that's almost true, like alien like where they're like everyone thinks we're dumb, but we've been hiding here forever.
You.
We've been farming. we've built a farm here in wherever country.
A human farm.
But I think that could be kind of interesting. Like they're in hiding. Like they have their own plan, and they're like, we need more. Interesting.
I do like them.
All our females have died out though.
Ooh,
and then she's the only female with.
And like 14 cave Unga Bunga dudes.
Yeah, I don't know. That might get a little. That might get a little dark, a little fast. I think something about her, like untapped power, like tapping into some sort of power is cool.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think it being horrific, it has to have some sort of tragic end to it. So by like maybe playing with the themes of looking too much into the past or into one's past, you can actually go mad maybe. Or you find things that you don't like. That's kind of the theme, is that in anybody's past, there are things, the lineage of the human history just shows that at some point down the line, some nice, not so nice people were in your family line. And I guess we're painting Neanderthals with a broad brush here, but maybe we could, I think they have to be evil, like for it to be horrific.
Yeah.
Or she starts turning into one or something.
Yeah, I think the movie I'm getting in my head, I've not seen this movie, but like Men, that movie Men?
Oh, yeah.
Where like basically she goes to this town and something's weird about the town, and then that's like the suspense and the horror comes through that. Where she goes on this trip, maybe she brings her like 3 girlfriends with her or something. They all go to this trip.
People to kill.
Because I did think like if this is horror, the protagonist needs to survive and learn something, but there's got to be other people around.
Yeah.
And maybe like one of them brings their like tool of a boyfriend. Yeah. And he's like the first guy and he's just like, this town sucks. And then he's just like,
he gets clubbed to the head.
Yeah. But I think that kind of thing of like the night comes and she's like walking and she sees like this giant shadow, like you get and people in the town are on edge. Maybe people in the town are aware, like it's controlled by these giant, smart
I think we're in
Neanderthals.
Iceland for sure. I think they go to Iceland. That's that or some other Nordic place.
Somewhere up north. And but I like that idea of you're confined to this town. It's kind of a monster of the week kind of vibe. The town people are on edge. If she's asking around, she's like, I got these results, and then they're really shook by that and they don't want to be
whatever, let me see. I'm looking up some Icelandic terms.
I think I'm also pulling some inspiration from At World's End or The World's End, the Edgar Wright movie, where there's like aliens.
I like that one.
It's I still like it. I like the 3 of them, but I think it's a little weaker than the other 2. I love Shaun of the Dead.
Oh, well, Shaun of the Dead is amazing. I'm looking up the Icelandic word for caveman. I can't even pronounce it. Hellishmauer? What is she saying? Hellishmauer. I don't know. That's what the Google lady's saying. Spooky. Anyway, she shows up and maybe they've been keeping it a secret. And maybe we find out at the end that she actually didn't have any Neanderthal DNA. They just lure people in to eat them.
What if the Neanderthals were never... I don't know how sci-fi we want to go. What if they were never from this planet? Like they crash landed.
I thought about that too.
They look like humans kind of, but they're bigger and everyone's like, oh, they were cavemen and they became us. And they're like, no, like we've been here forever and we're not, most of our people died out, but we're not.
But they are savage.
You guys.
I think there's something really scary about a savage, sophisticated savage. Like
there is something like he's very smart and intellectual, but then they can just let loose and take a giant... Chimp. Yeah, just take a giant club and like destroy buildings and people with it.
Oh yeah, no, I like that. I like that a lot. Let me see some towns in Iceland. See if we can.
Dude, you're not going to be able to pronounce any of them. Icelandic is like the hardest language.
Best option. Well, Reykjavik is the capital, right? I know that one. Let's see, Icelandia. Give me some.
3 hours later.
I know it doesn't matter. Icelandic town. A or B, but we have. She goes to Iceland with her friends. I don't know where this accent came from.
Oh no! Just like tripped into the new accent.
When I'm nervous, my accent comes out. They go on the kind of tour, and they're like, "Oh man, we'll hook up with some guys, and it'll be great," and blah 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 blah. And turns out that's like more true than what they realize with the cavemen.
Do you want to keep this in the... I think we're at a point here where you could take it either way, where it's more just the horror realm, and horror has a little bit of comedy in it, like a little bit, but it's clearly a horror, or it can be a horror comedy that's more like Shaun of the Dead, that is more of a comedy with horror elements in it.
I want to go more horror, I think.
I think it works with horror. I think the stakes are there. I think these guys are scary.
Yeah.
And
You ever seen Straw Dogs?
no, I have not.
It's an old Dustin Hoffman movie. I think it got remade. I can't remember who's in the remake, but it's like they're in some sort of Irish or Scottish town out in the middle of nowhere, and all the guys show up and try and get the wife, basically. And it's up to Dustin Hoffman to stop them from getting into the house. It's kind of a proto Die Hard. But maybe that's what ends up happening is that they're at like an Airbnb out in the middle of Iceland, and they come to find out that, they're there to get her.
The image of like, I don't know.
They can smell her blood.
Well, yeah, the image of like an Icelandic rolling hills, like that's normally like cool, and maybe there's not rolling hills, but I imagine like big green fields, like there's lots of space up there, and then just like a cottage, like in the middle of this big field and these hills, and just this image of like her looking out the window, and there's just way in the distance these foreboding like 7-8 foot tall dudes like in a circle around the house. Like that's really scary.
I think they could be varying sizes. I do like the big ones.
Yeah, some of them are 3 feet tall, and some are 7
3
feet.
feet. 3 feet's maybe. I didn't mean that short.
But like from 5 to 7, like some of them are bigger than a normal person would be. But they're also broad. Like they're all very strong.
I was going to say they're thick. They're like chimps. Like they look meaty and stocky and have like a little bit longer limbs. Their heads are big.
But do you think they dress like they're not dressing in furs? They're probably dressing their.
Yeah, I feel like they would wear fur of some kind.
For like a warrior.
But it's clothes. It's not like it's just a loincloth.
It's just one of them in jeans. He's like, guys, you got to try these jeans.
yeah. The guy wears on jeans. No, don't kill me. Don't kill me. Try these on. It's a little like 30 Days of Night as well with the vampire movie where it was a comic too, actually, where I think it's in Norway where there's a month where there's no sun. Or maybe Alaska. There's a lot of places that are like that, just Arctic Circle type stuff. And so vampires go there to not be attacked by the sun. And it's just about a town trying to survive that month while being attacked by vampires. So just that kind of idea that like the town, I don't know how they get away with it or what agreement the townspeople have. Maybe it's protection of some kind. Maybe they're just into the religion of the Neanderthals or cavemen. They like worship them or something. So they have like a pagan kind of thing to them, and they bring them sacrifices. I think that would be.
I think that's
scary.
Yeah. Do we land? Where do we land on them being aliens? Do we like that? Or are they just like beings that have been here for a long time? Like
I think they're just beings that have been here. The less you know, the better.
Just like Tame Impala says.
Yes. Just like Kevin Parker says. The less you know, the better about these Unga Bungas. And yeah, just them standing ominously is very scary. I do actually think the horrific element is them not having any women. And so they are after one of their kind to mate with. And so these are like ancient beings that show up and they're like, well, you have the blood. So when they can smell it or whatever.
And I think that's something that could be, she's talking to people at like they go to a bar or something and she's asking for directions. And the bartender's like, what are you looking for? And then she's like, oh, I did this test and it says like I'm this much Neanderthal. And he gets really worried for her. Yeah. And like maybe under his breath, he's like, you got to leave this town. And then like someone walks in.
There's a little museum in the town. And there's like a creepy guy that runs it or whatever. And, he's obviously like the high priest of the Neanderthal religion. And he's like, oh, these artifacts and whatever.
Because her being on the run in this town, I think they can't be confined to a house. I think I like that image of the cottage, but I think eventually she has to, purge style, be running through this town. Because if these guys are all like super strong,
and the townspeople aren't going to help her. I think is the.
Yeah, or maybe she like meets a character or two that like hides her temporarily. Yeah, but they're like, you can't stay here. You got to get out of this town. But I think I just don't see it. A lot of horror takes place in just a house, and I don't imagine them having a ton of weapons or anything. And these guys are strong and smart. I think they would just bust in the house. So I think maybe they bust in the house and then they escape through a cellar tunnel or something, and they're running through the town, and these Neanderthals are in hot pursuit through the town, and then they're looking for help, and everyone's just boarding themselves up in their house. It's pretty scary, like running through the town with these giant monster guys chasing you.
And the only guns you have are like older, European guns. I mean, there's not a lot of guns in Europe. That's kind of scary. I do think that they're nomadic, and most of the time they just, like, they're hundreds of years old, thousands of years old, and they just wander the Arctic. They don't, for whatever reason, they can live for a really long time. I think that's really interesting.
I think that's cool. And
folklore-wise.
Yeah, and there could be a scene where there's some sort of they're like, if you come with us, we can tell you, like, you have untapped potential. Like, there's things you should be able to do that you have no idea, and like trying to coax her to join them. And she's like, I'm a lawyer, and then like kicks them in the face. It would be cool if she had like a little bit of super strength at some point to help her out of a bind or something.
That's true. I thought about that, like her being athletic, of an athlete of some kind. And it's like, well, obviously, because you're part caveman.
Yeah, I do imagine the one boyfriend, the lame boyfriend that comes with them. I don't know, Trevor or something. Yeah. He's just like, you guys gotta leave. He's like just drunk or something, and it's just like, just like
a giant club,
small, smashed with a club. Like, you don't even see him; he just disappears under the grass.
I like that. I like that he's, a big guy too. It's a little the Hulk versus Thanos. They set up the bad guys.
Yeah, and if he can just be a joke, like he can be such a lame boyfriend that the whole friend group is like, he's not good for you, like he's not a great guy. So he can just be that, or he can be sincere and try to like help them to some capacity. But I think his purpose is he's the first one to die, and they see, one, that these guys mean business, and two, how strong these guys are.
Yeah,
like if this guy single-handedly like takes a club and just like crushes this guy with it.
Yeah, I agree. And you can see them like pick up cows and stuff, and
they're throwing cows at the house.
I really like the idea that she actually has a fiance. I feel like that entangles it more. There's more.
Is the fiance there, or is she just on a? Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. But maybe it's like two couples that went out, or maybe three couples that went out together.
It could be four. You do have to have some people who die along the way.
Well, that's where it's like two couples plus a local guide of some kind.
Yep.
You throw that in, local people. But that way, she goes on instead of it being because I got a breakup, it's because my mom died, and that was just something that was, and she was adopted. So she's like, well, now I really don't know where I'm from, so I might as well go and find out now. Boom. My mom couldn't even be there when I got married.
Maybe the fiance gets her the gift of the test to be like, hey, maybe it'd be cool I know that you wanted to always learn more about your heritage. And
destination wedding.
Does that mean like her ancestors were half children of these Neanderthal guys?
I thought about that too. Like, how did they end up becoming so separated at some point? I do think that there's something to be said about that the Neanderthal guys just found human women and had their way with them, and that just further diluted. They need to have a halfling who then had whatever. I guess if for her to have 15%, it wouldn't have had to have been that long ago.
Well, because it's 50 and then 25%, and then half of that's
12.5.
Yeah. So it's like 3 generations or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, it could be, late 1800s, that's really not that long ago. Here's a plot point that we're introducing that's a problem. Ooh. That if that's an option that they can just be with human women and then create 50% whatever, then why is that even why are they pursuing her? Unless it's like not, maybe it's normally not successful, like they can't breed, but then a few people, like it worked with. I think the museum guy could offload some of that exposition about there are stories about them mating with human women. These are Nephilim, whatever. And sometimes it was successful, sometimes it wasn't. But the people, they also live unnaturally long too. So I think that's something to be. That's an interesting point as well. That maybe she was found somewhere and got into an adoption agency. You know, it's like she could have been a child of one of them, like directly.
Oh. She could be just full on one of them. Like she could be like mostly maybe like a little human DNA or something. Like if we made it more than 15%, then it could. Man,
okay, maybe she's not adopted. Maybe it's like, I don't want to ever tell you about your dad.
Yeah, and like the dad was one of the things. Yeah, that could.
That's interesting.
But then, well, I guess they're not all related because it's like it's not. Let's not get too blue and be like the dad's like you're the only woman. You know what I'm saying?
No, that's from.
But then the other guys.
My favorite X-Files episode is called Home, and it is all about incest hillbilly dudes.
Oh no!
And it is so good. They only aired it once, and I saw it. Yeah, they only aired it once because it's so violent and just disturbing or whatever. But I saw it, and I don't know where, or how, but just that one. It's one of the lost media kind of things. It's not lost; you can see it, but yeah, there's something interesting about that. That kind of forbidden thing. I don't know. Like, it almost would be better if we kind of skip the DNA test thing and these guys just show up and she finds out about all of it because they're like chasing her.
Like they come to where she is, like her neck of the woods.
Yeah.
That's true. I do really like the Iceland scenery. So it could just be maybe the test is not like, maybe she just goes to visit. Maybe it's no test. Her mother used to visit Iceland. She used to love going to Iceland in this little town in Iceland. And she's like, hey, my mother just passed.
I'm here to scatter her ashes.
Yeah. Yeah. Or the husband's like, well, let's go. Or the fiance says, let's go visit there. Let's go see firsthand what she saw. And then when they're there, they get wise to her being there. And then they're chasing them down.
They can smell her.
They can smell the Neanderthal blood.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe that's the thing. It's just like they're thousands of years old and they smell a woman that's like some of their kind. I don't know. Maybe they're attracted to that kind of thing. I don't know. I'm not one of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And maybe, they're all different. It might not be an incest thing. They could, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
but I think the draw, it makes sense. There's no women. It's all dudes. And they're like, our species is going to die out. Mm-hmm. It's like almost a form of duty for them to like procreate their species, and they're having to chase her down, and they're having to, I don't know, are they successful in killing some of these things along the way?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. This is where I think you were really revealing some of our weakness as like horror writers, because we're not generating like scenarios that are necessarily like, what is this little episode that's really scary? You know, like her out on the beach and she's being followed by one that's like really far away. Or she goes out at night or she's at a pub or whatever, and her and her boyfriend or fiance had a fight, and she's like stumbling back to the Airbnb. She can't remember where it's at, and she keeps getting followed. That's scary. That would be scary even if it's not horrific though. Like what is horrific is the creature, and the creature is this ancient thing. I mean, what if they like literally kidnapped her and then it kind of shifts over to being the fiance and he's got to like go get her?
Oh, like he's the protagonist?
Yeah. I'm just saying the shift would happen at some point where, you know, she's trying to get away at the same time he's trying to find her. There's Bone Tomahawk that came out a few years ago, which is a Western that has to do with like Neanderthals that start like killing women and stuff. And they're like cannibals. And they kidnap a bunch of townspeople. But it's a Western, so it's cool because it's like caveman Western. And it's hyper brutal, like really, really brutal, violent. So it's a little, you know, we're pulling on this type of genre blending, but I think leaning more into horror. What's so horrific about a caveman? I do think them not talking is scary. Not speaking English.
Yeah, I think the horror genre is interesting because I think you can make a lot of things scary. They make Five Nights at Freddy movies and stuff where it's like animatronic bears. It's all the presentation. It's all the, and I'm not trying to diminish a horror movie, but there's a lot of it's that. It's a lot of it is you see the silhouette of a 7 foot tall guy just standing in the distance, like, and it's unsettling. And then she like takes a turn down the alley, and you see him take the turn down the alley, and then the music swells. It's a lot of, it's presented in this way. I always see these things on Instagram where it's like music means everything, and it's this epic scene, but then they put romantic, like,
I've seen those things.
Music, and it's like, oh, these guys are making eyes at each other or something like that. But I do think it's a lot of the presentation. I think it's how it's packaged, which obviously it's hard to do that in this podcast form. Like we could create a bunch of little moments that are suspenseful, but we're world builders. Yeah,
we are world builders. That's true. This is definitely a strong suit of ours. So both bulking out the lore of the Unga Bungas, of them being mostly men. I think having like a one woman is actually kind of interesting. Like she gets dragged back to the cave, and there's an Unga Bunga woman, and she's like old, and she like looks at her and just does like weird stuff to her, like paints her or something. I'm just trying to think of things that she could do that could be related to their.
Yeah. What if it's like the mother of all the other dudes?
Yeah, you're just recreating home the X-Files episode.
Oh, really?
But yeah, that I mean, we could even drag out an entire act of her being stuck with them, and that could be horrific for its own reasons.
Yeah, like underground in some weird cave.
Yeah,
sophisticated, but it's got furniture and stuff. A modern cave.
Yeah, like modern an actual like he's got like a pipe.
Oh, welcome to my cave.
I do think, that you could drag out that where you make them more shamanistic, more magic, and there's like a somewhat of a colony somewhere that she gets dragged out.
I think there's a scary part where I don't know, they want her there, and I don't think they want to just. I think they want to treat her almost like regard her like you might be the last female of our thing, like with this respect, but then they're holding her against her will.
Well, that's why they wouldn't kill her. They'd kill all of her other people.
Yeah. I don't know if this would work, but like her to escape has to kill the old woman. And then the other guys find that, and they just in a frenzy are just like, all these dudes are just like running across the fields to like track this woman down to get revenge or something, which I think that makes sense. Even though that like they need her, I think they would be really furious, and they would just act on instinct and be chasing them down. And maybe she does get some help from some of the pub guy or something. Maybe I'm getting a Shaun of the Dead where they get the guns off the walls and stuff, and they're like shooting these dudes. But no, not
being able to swim is probably a pretty good weakness to give them. So, running out onto ice and shooting it or blowing it up or whatever. And
that's cool.
Yep. I like it. That could be kind of an interesting way to kill them or kill the big one or whatever. Maybe the 3 foot tall one is the one that survived.
And he's like, whoa. He's like, now that the rest are gone, we can, and then they kiss, and then the end.
Oh yeah.
The end. No.
The end. No,
that's not how it ends. But I think that works. I think the beats are there. She goes. There's these guys. They need her. They're trying to track her down, and then it's a lot of us.
Now, are they attached to the ancestry thing? Or is that's just by accident? That's like.
Well, I thought we were going to abandon that, and they just go as a gift to.
That's right. So is the fiance in on it then, or no? You're just saying like the setup is they go, and they realize like her dad.
They don't. Yeah, the dad was just like some. And maybe there's a line about that where she never knew her dad. Like she grew up with her single mom, and it's like, yeah, she always talked about traveling, and she'd always go to Iceland until I was born. And then maybe there's a little comment from one of her friends that's like, what if your dad's in Iceland? Like maybe he was there. Maybe he's still there. And he is, but he's a Neanderthal monster. Yeah.
That's scary. I think digging into the theme will help us kind of unlock and make me feel a little more comfortable with the story before we kind of head out. I feel like we're kind of in a descent right now. But that idea of looking at the past looking at and wanting to know more and finding out the bloody past, and how you can emerge, that she emerges triumphant over these beasts, the beast of her past, the kind of, unregenerate man kind of thing, that she is now stronger because of it. She has more self-understanding and asserts herself as being like, I recognize my past. How can we get that kind of moment in there where she's recognizing her past? I mean, that's maybe where her powers show up. I hate to use that. Like, I'm big and hairy now.
Yeah, no, I don't think she needs to. But like this confidence, I guess going back to her needs at the beginning, I mean, you know what I'm going to do?
I thought of an ending.
Oh, you just like that.
Yeah.
I just had to propose an idea and you beat me to it.
Yep.
Tell me what.
Okay.
Tell me
so
what
my
your
ending
thoughts
is
are.
that the whole time they go berserk, right? These guys, they're like berserker caveman Neanderthal dudes, and that's really scary because they're very violent and they can rip you apart and do all sorts of things. They kill the other couple very easily. They kill the local guide guy. They even kill the museum guy who's like, "I worship you," and they just kill him. He's like, maybe he says something about, oh, if you show them subservience, like they'll spare you, and he like gets down or whatever, and they're just like,
and they just, they do like an uppercut with the club, like, and just and like shoot him through the ceiling,
or like a big harpoon or something, like they clearly are barbaric, and have barbaric weapons and stuff, so they just pick up a big rock. He's really juicy, so but they go into that berserker mode. Maybe they see one get really injured, and he kind of, in his last moments, like goes crazy and can like lift up a big thing, and it's like, oh, and then the fiance like shoots him, and it like stops him eventually, but it was maybe with an elephant gun or something. It's kind of an interesting European great white hunter thing to tie in there. But she gets injured, her fiance dies, and she is like fighting the last one, or is like fighting them off and is able to do something, but she goes into like a berserker mode, right? And goes really violent and is, and it's brutal. And she kills the last one. So now she's the last one, right? The last remaining one of that tribe or whatever. But she never comes back from that state. So she's like not lobotomized. She's just, catatonic. So she's like in an institution at the end, where like her past caught up with her and has actually caused it. I'm trying to go real tragic here. So
it's very tragic. It's not my cup of tea personally, because I feel like you ride this ride with the protagonist and you want to see them succeed. And it feels like it's the kind of movie I'd walk out of. I'm just like, why did I watch that movie? But that's me, because I don't
that's
like.
Fair. I mean, we can try and find a more hopeful way to end it.
I think I like the route you're going. I feel like this. I'm pulled up a story circle to kind of remind me of the thing, because I think what we need to emphasize, and you can veto this, but if we emphasize more, like at the beginning, flashbacks of her as a kid with her mom, and her mom being this kind of like fun, rebellious spirit, and like just real like bonding with her mom and like this relationship, but like her not knowing anything more about their family or anything. This kind of unknown, like who are we? What do we do? And the mom passes away. Then she's feeling this emptiness of like this. She has a lack of connection. Like she's like, well, I need more. Like, what was our family like? What is all this?
Where am I from?
And that's her need. She's going to pursue that. She's searching for it. She finds the stuff. She finds out that it's basically a bunch of barbarians, a bunch of Neanderthals. And I feel like, and obviously when you shoot through story beats this quick, it's like, obviously, but you'd flesh it out better. But I feel like that's the thing, is like she's confronted with these things, they're fighting these things, they kill some of her friends, and maybe she does go savage a little bit, and they're like, so you're just like us, like this is who we are, and like they're killing the innocent townspeople. And then she like she's like, no, I'm not like you, I'm like my mom. And like she stops them somehow, but then she makes the choice that she's content with the family that she had. She doesn't need more than
so she gets over her mom's death,
Yeah.
By how does she get over her mom's death? Like
By crushing the head of the...
I was gonna say,
the-
yeah, like by killing any chance of loving any other kind of past, like basically killing the idealism before it kills you.
Yeah,
This
or
idea of like, oh, if I knew my past, I could be more connected.
or the twist you do at the beginning is that she feels estranged from her mother in the later years because she got mad that she never would connect her with the rest of the family.
Yeah.
Or something. So there's this bitterness, and then she has this regret that she ended things on this negative note, thinking like her mother was hiding something and she was angry at her, and then come to discover her mother had always been trying to protect her from this other side that she knew nothing about. And I think some sort of like cathartic ending with the mother, like her realizing what her mother did for her, or what her mother actually meant to her, or the example she set for her. Something like that is the thing at the end that like clicks, and she doubles down on that rather than becomes a barbarian and a savage. Does that make sense? I feel
That
like
makes
there's
sense,
something there.
There is, yeah. I think, because like right now we could tell like a really basic story with like an evil, entity that has nothing to do with the main character. I think the entanglement is that she is this thing, and how does she square away with that? It's like a ghost story. If you find out that you're half ghost, okay, Danny Phantom,
Danny Phantom.
yeah. That, but you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's not every day. Okay, Sheriff Brody finds out he's part shark in Jaws.
Yeah.
That's an interesting entanglement. So you have to like square away with like, okay, the monster in me. What do I do with the monster in me? And maybe that's something that she deals with. Like her flaw is actually like the monstrous part of her. And so then she goes and confronts that. And obviously it's disguised as going on this trip to find out more about herself and everything. But she finds out and fully rejects. But also it's really easy to reject that part of yourself because it's violent and nasty. And, I'm just a cannibalistic caveman. So I do the mom giving her some sort of nugget of a rope, an escape rope of like, you don't need to be this. Like your nature does not need to be the Abraham Lincoln quote that's in Apocalypse Now, which is like the angels of our better nature. The demons of our lesser nature is what she's confronting. And the whole thing could be disguised as being like not even real. Like she goes and confronts the past or whatever.
But you could up the stakes a little bit where along the way, like all the scary stuff's happening. What?
Night at the museum.
Oh, just Night at the Museum?
Popped into my head. That's all. And I was like, oh, we should just do Night at the Museum, but scary.
I was just going to say, you could up the stakes a little. I think it'd be interesting if the scary stuff's happening, the suspenseful stuff, she feels like she's being followed, and then weird things happening, like people are dying in the town, like they're being brutally murdered and stuff. And at some point, when she's confronted by these things, she's like, why are you just killing these innocent people? And they're like, we haven't killed any of these innocent people. That's been you. And like she's in her sleep, like now that she's home, like acting out, because that would up the level of you've got like a Hulk story.
That's interesting.
It's like, do you release into the beast? Like they're like, you're like us and you're savage, but we can teach you how to control it. And then they're clearly savage at the end. They go berserk and they're killing people too. And they're killing her friends. And then she has to decide, is this who I am actually? Like I've killed people. Yeah. Am I a monster or am I the daughter of my mother?
Yeah.
I think that would add a lot of stakes and stuff for her to actually killed some people too.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good idea. I like that. That's very psychologically driven. I
think it's also a fun twist because you make it think like these people are killing these people, and then at the end you reveal it's like, no, you killed all those people, and we could have too. But we're here.
So why do they decide to kill them at the end? Do they have some sort of agreement with the town?
I think, some sort of agreement. I feel like there's got to be some sort of, like the town is aware of these beings somehow.
Yeah, I feel like they keep them at bay with something sacred, and that gets destroyed somehow.
Oh, like the people have something sacred? of theirs.
So they use whatever, a bell or something like that, keeps them at bay, but then that gets destroyed.
I feel like their mother dying is a good trigger for them to go berserk on
that's true.
people in the whole town. And maybe there's something like that, or maybe the town provides something for the mother, and then it appeases the guys, and then but then if the mother's gone, then they're just
the museum guy is really interesting. He would have to be the connector of a lot of this, and like giving us so much exposition to be able to tell us about all of it, but then facilitating like, oh, here she comes, and it's like Madam Caveman. And she comes out.
Not Madam Cave Woman, Madam Caveman.
Yeah, exactly.
Mrs. Man.
Madam Caveman shows up, and she's, frail and old and shamanistic, and, maybe kills an animal in front of her and, paints her with it or whatever. I don't know. Is like initiating her into the tribe. And maybe the fiance ruins that initiation thing. I don't know. But the museum guy, I think, is interesting because it just fell in his lap, or maybe he would know, like, hey, like, we don't mess with this statue or these rocks. This rock formation has been put up as a peace treaty between us and them, and of a battle that was like fought, hundreds of years ago or whatever. And so, but then that gets demolished somehow by her or by. What causes that? It
could be her, because maybe she went in her berserk state that she's unaware of a little bit. Maybe she does something like that.
Yeah.
Because it's like she's doing stuff to the town, but then if she does something to them or their statue or something, then that motivates them to. I feel like they don't really go berserk. They're creepy and following her, and there's some exposition from them along the way too. But then it's like the last 10 minutes of the movie where they're like full of 10, 15 minutes where they're violent rage. And it's like, oh, it's all popping off right here, right now.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
And
then that's where they have to like run and die. And one of the friends like kicks over a statue, and like this like big elephant tusk like impales one of the guys. And so like it's all this stuff. And then they like smash one of the friends. It's just... I think it's all like the suspenseful build up to this moment.
Yeah.
And then the suspense to that is her deciding, like, am I going to go full berserk? Like, am I going to lean into this, or am I going to...
I think I have something.
Oh.
Okay. She's not one of them. Okay. She is a god.
Okay.
That
of
they
their
worship.
people? Mm-hmm. Do they know that?
I think when she arrives, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so however that works, I don't know. World building, fellas.
Yeah, we're running a little long, so we might need to wrap it up. But I think, But okay, I think if I feel like the stakes are a little less there for her, unless she's also still berserk, killing people.
Ooh, what was that noise?
Oh, could you hear it? Yeah, there's like a motorcycle ran by. I'm gonna make it. Just
sounded like purring, like big, deep purring.
Oh yeah, I know.
Dude, if they had like a saber tooth, that would be cool.
That would be cool, man. I feel like, they could have a saber tooth. If she was a god,
they could morph into it. They could morph into the giant.
It turns out they're just Power Rangers.
Yeah, but they're cave rangers.
Go Power Rangers. Cave Rangers. Could you imagine it's like a build up for a horror movie and they're being followed, and then she like stumbles into the cave and the lights appear and it's just the Power Rangers. They're like
the 90s Power Rangers set.
We've been waiting for you.
Don your suit, Brown Ranger. I don't know. I'm thinking more about other monstrous things that could happen. Her working at a museum could be interesting too. That cuts into like, oh, she would already have native knowledge of these things. Again, her being a god or maybe mistaken as one. I think, when someone asks you, are you a god? You say yes.
Is that the museum guy?
Yeah, the museum guy, yeah. But yeah, that they would have some sort of worship thing going on, and they believe that she has some sort of status, but maybe they want to mate with her, like that could still happen. Like, anyway. So it's just, I don't know what that does for her theme in terms of like, what am I? And she's like, oh, you're a god. or goddess.
I think that, if she's not, that's also, if she's none of this stuff, she's not a barbarian or a goddess, but they just think she is. I think that lands us back into kind of classic horror territory because there's nothing really special about her. She's just kind of at the wrong place at the wrong time, and she has to find her way out of this situation. Whereas I feel like the barbarian ending could work, where she's like, I'm not gonna be this, and she pursues the other thing. If she's a god, we have to work out what that means. Like, it's
that's
like,
true.
Like, what is her stakes at that point? Is she still killing people? Is she bad? What is her power? She just at the end, like literally they're killing everyone, and then she just starts glowing and levitating and like kills them all with like lightning.
You laugh, but that sounds like a typical A24 movie. Like, she would just like glow for half a second at the end, and that would be it. It's like, oh, she really was a goddess the whole time.
Yeah, we could also do that where just we don't show it until the very end. But if she's neither, then we're just literally, it's a misunderstanding. And she's safe as long as they think that she's a goddess. And then when they find out she's not, or she destroys.
Like El Dorado.
Oh, on the eyebrow.
Yeah, dude. I actually kind of like that. That's and they like take her back and everything, and they're giving her stuff.
Zach.
Do it. Nephilim Jim.
The mother's doing the ceremony on her. And then there's like, from a mix up, the mother like cuts her, and then she's bleeding, and then the mother's like, you're not a god. And then in the hubbub, she has to maybe accidentally kills her, and that's the motivation of the killing her.
Oh,
and then,
she kills the mom.
Yeah, and then she's escaping, and then they come back. The mom's dead. Maybe they see blood on her blood, on Harper, Harper's blood. Come back to her name after all this time. And then they realize she's not, and she killed her mother, and then that's the frenzy.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think that's cool. And then just like full on town versus.
And the museum guy can be like, we had a delicate, balance. Mm-hmm. Like there's been myths about them, but like, farmers from far out or whatever have brought things back, and it's like they are okay with losing a sheep every once in a while. Mm-hmm. And they see them out, and they live a naturally long life. Mm-hmm. And then the mother is just like a crazy shaman and does some sort of ritual. She accidentally kills her, or maybe the fiance in his rescuing, like that. It all happens at the same time, and the mom gets crushed, and she curses her basically. Yeah, that's scary. I mean, it'd be actually, so this is a little bit of rewriting, but it's almost like it doesn't matter with our characters. Like Harper, obviously brought up her name, but like it's maybe her and her best friend, and they're out it's kind of like American Werewolf in London, where they're just out on the English moors or whatever, out on the Icelandic hiking and mountains or whatever is out there. And they stumble across this, and it just is unfortunate. And then they get the curse of the caveman basically on them, and they chase them through this town. And it's just about her trying to survive. The American Werewolf in London has the whole, like, he turns into a werewolf at some point. So there's a little bit of that.
The amount of retconning in this episode.
We are retconning this thing, dude.
Yeah. I think we had a solid thing with them pursuing her and wanting her to mate. I think that works. I feel like for me, obviously we spent the most time fleshing that out, but viewer, send us a message and please tell us what avenue you think sounds the most interesting. Whether don't send me a letter because I won't remember. You have to type it out. Whether she's a barbarian and she actually has to deal with that. Whether she's a god. Whether she is in the wrong place, wrong time, and they think she's a god or barbarian, or she just gets cursed and cavemen chase her through the city. They're all good options, but let us know what you think. Send us a message, and this has been fun. Yeah, it's been. Horror's not my forte, so it's fun to explore.
Well, I think most of us. This is actually a pretty interesting thought. I think at the end is that Tommy and I are not. We aren't gravitating towards horror, and so we try not to be horrific in what we make and what we write, and so we're not going into these areas that could be really rapey. Are really grotesque because we don't want to put our viewers through that. I want to make things that usually call people up to a higher level of being and thinking, rather than just like pure survival as being the only thing. Oh, they survived at the end. I think the perfect example of this type of movie that is like on the border of horror would be something like Jurassic Park, where it's really about like the past and the present and the future kind of in contention, and like the children represent the future, and the main character like comes to terms with the fact of that the future is better than the past. He like hates computers and all this kind of stuff. And he chooses life and children over the past, which is dinosaurs and stuff, even though it's like just subtly threaded in there. So thematically with something like this, I would want to land on something along those lines, if I can say that.
Yeah,
you
you're
know?
allowed to say that. And I agree. I think there's a lot of horror out there that, and this is not a bash on horror. I don't watch a ton of it, but that the goal is survival. It's just like, hey, this is a crazy thing, and look how crazy this thing is and scary this is, and the goal is just to survive. But I agree. I want our characters to develop. I want someone to learn something by the end of this and be changed for the better in some way.
Yeah.
Even if it's a hard journey. Obviously, we're telling a story where their friends are dying and stuff, and townspeople, innocent people, are dying.
Yeah.
But the message of the story still needs to have something there, have some sort of meat that the audience can take away.
I agree.
Yep.
And that's why I'm more gravitating towards tragic endings. And horror does tend to have like a tragic, oh, he didn't get away at the end. Oh, the hand came out of the lake at the end and grabbed her and dragged her underwater. That type of thing. It's like, it's just for the thrill of it. That you as the viewer are still alive after this full trial. That's interesting to a lot of people. And I love horror fans because they really keep indie filmmaking alive. It's a very... they don't mind cheap things, if I can put it that way. And so that's cool. And is this a cheap idea? Probably not. We're moving all around. There are other like caveman horror things. As you can tell, we kept thinking of different ideas to explore. Maybe we didn't put ourselves into enough of a creative box to like land firmly on something. But I was in the whole time.
I had fun. It's funny that if we didn't roll horror and it was just a comedy of a woman who found out she was born,
that would have been way up our alley.
Yeah, but I'm not saying making excuses. It's fun to explore this idea, but it's just funny how you could have the same plot, but same slug line, but change the genre, and it would be, or a romance, like a strictly romance, where it's just like, and it's like the man's like, you're part caveman, huh?
That was the initial prompt. That was just a funny idea that I had. And so, yeah, I feel like true to the prompt is something funny. But the fact that we made it horror is just cool. Like,
it's a cool exercise because I was definitely in the comedy mindset at the beginning of this.
Yeah.
And at this point, this is like, no, this isn't like an adventure, horror, scary suspense situation.
Exactly.
Maybe more suspense than...
If you find something like Midsummer really scary, just imagine that, but with cavemen. That's the movie. So that's basically what we were trying to re-engineer. And I think that's cool. Like the caveman aspect of it.
Does your title that you came up with it was the
Nephilim Jim. So that does not work here.
Well, maybe that's the guy's name. Maybe that's the main caveman.
That's true. That's the main caveman guy.
Like, I'm Nephilim Jim.
I don't know. I almost feel like this one needs to be like Untitled Caveman Movie. I don't know if it has enough of an identity, or like the Caveman Session or something.
The Caveman Draft or something like that.
Yeah.
I feel like something like, I don't know.
You said the word rage that I really liked.
Rage.
Yeah.
The rage. Let's explore that. So there's the rage. I also think like something like the tall ones, or some sort of something that the townspeople might refer to these guys as.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
The long walkers, the Bigfoot, Littlefoot.
Yeah.
Land Before Time.
Oh yeah, Littlefoot. No, I think the tall ones is pretty good. the word savage is also good. Like, again, a single word like rage would also work.
Rage could work. Rage is interesting. I like that. I almost want to tack on one more word to rage.
Yeah.
Rage, engage.
Ooh.
No.
Also,
man.
I mean, like lineage of rage or something like that, like bloodline, something.
Bloodline, lineage of rage.
That's very metal. That's very metal.
Lineage of rage.
Yeah. And up next is lineage of rage. Yeah, and they're cavemen. Unga bunga. Yeah, they're playing like rocks and stuff.
They're playing rock and roll, man.
Yeah, it's rock and roll. I guess it's not metal. But yeah, there's Bone Tomahawk is that Western. So you could also just like zero in on a weapon of theirs or even the shaman mama,
Yeah, I guess it does feel like that A24 where the one was just called Men. And it could just be rage or the rage within or...
Yeah.
But we can say rage. Do you want to call it rage?
The long rage?
The long rage? The long rage. What's the long rage? Just the
fact that they live for a long time. And yeah, it's the night of their...
Oh, I like that actually. The long rage. The long rage is like because they've been here forever. So why do you call them the long rage? Because they've always been here.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think you do some sort of Icelandic thing. It's like it just roughly translates to the long rage.
The long rage. I like that a lot. All right, title's Long Rage.
Boom.
You did it. That
actually helps snap some things into place too. Like the title is just a thematic binder, basically. So,
and I think I don't know if you have a line, but I feel like what I just said, I feel pretty good about too.
Go for it. Yeah.
Right along the lines is the museum guy explaining the legend of these beings. And he explains that the translation of their name translates to roughly the Long Rage. And when Harper asks why they're called the Long Rage, he says, because they've always been here. Thank you all for listening to StoryFellas, a part of the Pemmican Studios podcast network. Check out our show notes for bonus material, links, and more. To find out more about our current projects, send us messages, and suggest ideas for the show, go to StoryFellasPodcast.com. If you liked what you heard, share the show with a friend. Word of mouth is the best way to grow this community. Until next time, go make and break those stories.